Netflix is removing most of its interactive content. The NLRB accused Grindr of using a return-to-office mandate to upend a unionization drive. And Apple just approved another app that streams pirated movies and TV shows. It's Tuesday, November 5th, and this is Engadget News. Here's some bad news for those who thought the future would include streaming versions of choose-your-own-adventure books. According to reporting by The Verge, Netflix is deleting much of its interactive content. The platform currently lists 24 interactive specials, and only 4 of them will remain after December 1st. Luckily, it's the only 4 that most people have heard about. Black Mirror Bandersnatch, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, Kimmy vs. the Reverend, Ranveer vs. Wild with Bear Grylls, and You vs. Wild will all continue to be available for streaming. The same cannot be said for specials based on Carmen Sandiego, Boss Baby, and Puss in Boots. Incidentally, Puss in Book, Trapped in an Epic Tale, was the very first Netflix special to feature this interactive technology, which was a couple of years before Black Mirror Bandersnatch wowed the world. This is a fairly disappointing end for a technology that Netflix once promised it would be doubling down on. Company spokesperson Chrissy Kelleher told The Verge that the feature served its purpose, but the focus will now be on technological efforts in other areas. Former Netflix gaming honcho Mike Verdu also told GameFile's Stephen Totilo that it wasn't making any more of these interactive titles. Despite putting the kibosh on streaming content with gamified elements, the platform's still dipping its toes into gaming itself. Netflix has a diverse array of mobile titles available for subscribers, and even some legit bangers. However, the company did just shut down its AAA game studio before it even released a single game. The National Labor Relations Board has filed a complaint against Grindr. According to Bloomberg, the agency alleges that a return-to-office mandate that limited remote work and effectively meant a relocation requirement for many workers was an attempt to fend off a unionization drive. Around 80 of Grindr's 178 employees quit as a result of last year's RTO demand, according to the Communications Workers of America. The NLRB's General Counsel Office has accused Grindr of violating labor law by retaliating against workers who were attempting to organize. Per Bloomberg, the agency additionally claims the company refused to recognize the union or to negotiate with it in good faith, which would also be a violation of labor law. A Grindr spokesperson told the publication that the claims were meritless. They added that some employees started signing union cards only after it was known that the transition back to in-office work was underway. According to the CWA, the company announced on August 4th last year that workers would have to attend its offices at least 2 days a week. A supermajority of workers announced their unionization in July. The union claims that by the end of August, around half of the staff had been forced to resign. This, in part, was said to be a result of relocation requirements. Among other issues, the union has said that having to relocate would have required some of Grindr's trans employees to find alternate health care providers. The CWA said the RTO mandate gave workers 2 weeks to choose between ending their tenure at Grindr or relocating to their respective team's newly assigned hub city to work in person twice a week. As CNN noted, many of the workers who had been hired remotely were suddenly required to report to a Grindr office in New York or Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco, or Washington, D.C. By now, you'd think that Apple's vetting procedures for the App Store were watertight. But think again. As reported by The Verge, a Threads post showed that an app called Evernote, a productivity app on the outside, is actually an illegal app that grants certain users access to pirated films. The kicker is not only that the app is Apple approved, Evernote actually functions as a productivity app. But if you're in countries, say, like France or Canada, a French menu full of pirated movies and shows will show up. The app's listing makes it appear like a standard, if generic, app, but it has an incredible rating of 4.9 stars out of 5. When folks at Engadget downloaded and tested the app themselves, they found movies and shows like Agatha All Along, Breaking Bad, The Office, Deadpool, and Wolverine, and many other titles, all streaming for free. The content is divided into sections for various streaming services, including Netflix, Disney+, Apple TV+, Prime Video, Max, Paramount+, and Crunchyroll, as well as a few French-only platforms. Some of the movies have only recently been released in theaters, including Venom: The Last Dance and Terrifier 3. Apple will likely remove Univernote from the store soon, and it likely won't be the last app to slip past the tech giant's filters. However, the fact that it has plenty of content from large streaming platforms makes it a particularly egregious slip-up. You have to imagine that Netflix and Disney aren't happy with that. Thanks for listening. There's more to these stories and additional articles at Engadget.com. This episode featured journalism from Lawrence Bonk, Chris Holt, and Jeremy Gann, and was voiced and produced from the sound studios of Spoken Layer. Enjoy your day, and I'll be back tomorrow with more tech news from Engadget.